Yo, it's your boy Smoke Breath and Madden video. Today's video we'll be doing a Marvin Harrison JR career simulation in Madden 25. Marvin Harrison was selected with the 4th overall pick to the Arizona Cardinals in this last year's draft. And since obviously they've already played a full season, we are going to start out with as if we're doing the career sim right now to make it as realistic as possible. So Marvin Harrison already has a 1 year under his belt with 62 receptions, 885 yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. Basically, how it's going to work is we're just going to sim his whole entire career of him being an NFL receiver, and everything is on auto. We do not mess with the settings at all. So he does not jump up in overall in his beginning of the second year, still 79 overall. But the Cardinals go 3-14, so a big decrease. They went from 8-9 to 3-14. Before we go and get into all the stats, make sure you guys go and leave a like and subscribe. Comment down below who else you would like to see a career simulation of. But let's go and see Marvin Harrison's sophomore season. His numbers: Kyler Murray, 3,233 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Pretty bad year for Kyler right there. Actually, really bad year. Don't really know why Madden is hating on Kyler Murray so much, but hey, I guess they're saying he's not going to do good. Looks like they had a rookie quarterback as well. Trey Benson is now the leading running back after 1 year down the road with 908 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. James Conner had 6 rushing touchdowns, but only 212 yards. Leading receiver on the team was Michael Wilson with 763 yards, 6 touchdowns. Then Trey McBride with 713 yards and 3 touchdowns. Then Marvin Harrison had the third most receiving yards with 682, 6 receiving touchdowns, all off of 58 receptions. Now in the third year, Marvin Harrison is going to go up 2 overalls. He is now an 81. Still at star development. He's still the wide receiver 1 in the depth chart at least, even though Michael Wilson did just outperform him stats-wise. But yeah, starting off year 3, Marvin Harrison is now an 81 overall. And the Cardinals finished 6-11, so no playoffs yet. Still a little bit of a rough spot for the Cardinals, not being able to make playoffs. Let's go and check out the statistics, though. They still got Kyler Murray at quarterback 3 years down the road, and he is still not doing that great. 2,971 yards, 24 passing touchdowns, 21 interceptions. Completion percentage is 62. Trey Benson still doing really good, 1,001 yard and 10 rushing touchdown. Doesn't look like James Conner's on the team anymore. Trey McBride is the leading receiver with 717 yards, 5 receiving touchdowns. Laviska Shenault with 706 and 4 receiving touchdowns. Marvin Harrison with 49 receptions, 628 yards, and 3 receiving touchdowns. But his downs played is only 861, so he might have had an injury there. Who knows? So starting at the beginning of year 4, he is now an 82. He only went up 1 overall. Still at star dev. He's still technically the wide receiver 1 on the depth charts. Hopefully, we can start to see some improvement from the Cardinals and Marvin Harrison in this season. And the Cardinals make playoffs. This is their first playoff appearance with Marvin Harrison, but they didn't go far at all. They were able to make it to the second round, but still, they didn't make a deep playoff run. They only were able to make it to the second round, getting eliminated. So now let's go and check out the stats. Let's see if Kyler Murray is still the quarterback. Okay, he is. Okay, and this is actually a pretty solid year for Kyler Murray. A lot better than the ones we have been seeing in the simulation so far. 3,596 passing yards, 28 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 69% completion with a rating of 101.1. Trey Benson is still the leading running back with 990 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. Kyler Murray ran the ball quite a bit for 385 yards. Marvin Harrison, the leading receiver of 1,046 yards off of 82 receptions with 10 receiving touchdowns. This is the best year we've seen from Marvin Harrison by far, so this is good. Maybe helped get him to the playoffs. Now, in the beginning of year 5, he did go up 2 overalls, so he's now an 84. Still at star development, and he's still wide receiver 1 on the depth charts. Let's see how Marvin Harrison will perform after just having his career year. It wasn't anything crazy, but it was still a really solid year with 1,046 yards and 10 receiving touchdowns. Let's go and see how the Cardinals do. And they make playoffs again, this time being a 4 seed, and they get eliminated in the first round by the Green Bay Packers, the 5th seed, 16-21. So it's a little bit upsetting there, but at least they make back-to-back playoff appearances since, it did take them a good 4 years to make playoffs. Let's go and check the stats. Kyler Murray with 3,085 passing yards, 21 passing touchdowns, 16 interceptions. Completion percentage of 66. Looks like Baker Mayfield was the backup in this simulation, so the Cardinals got Baker Mayfield. That's kind of cool. Trey Benson, 1,031 rushing yards, 9 rushing touchdowns, 0 fumbles. Kyler Murray with 415 rushing yards. Marvin Harrison didn't really perform as well as he did last year, but he didn't do bad. Like, this is a mid-year. 872 yards off of 78 receptions with 6 receiving touchdowns. And so far, that's kind of what we've seen out of Marvin Harrison. We haven't seen bad, but we've mainly seen mid, to be honest, and he had 1 good year. But these aren't bad numbers, like I keep saying. Like, these aren't bad at all. Anyway, starting off with year 6, he is an 85 overall, so he does keep on going up slightly. He went up 1 overall, still at star development, and still wide receiver 1. But their little streak of making the playoffs is over. They had 2 playoff appearances, but now it ends with an 8-9 record for the Arizona Cardinals. Kyler Murray is still the quarterback with 3,041 passing yards, 23 passing touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 63 completion percentage, a rating of 94.5. He was sacked 41 times. Trey Benson with 1,320 yards. Really good year for Trey Benson. Even though he only had 3 rushing touchdowns, that's a lot of yards. Marvin Harrison with 825 yards off of 61 receptions, and he had 8 touchdowns. Seems like he's been getting 8 touchdowns around that mark for a good amount of his career. He averaged 48 receiving yards per game. So Marvin Harrison is going to go up 1 overall again. So he's an 86. So he keeps going up, but it's very slowly. And he is going to start reaching, he is 29 at this point, coming into the beginning of his 7th year. So he will start to regress at some point. I'm not saying it's going to be soon, but the progression going slowly isn't really going to help his case. Anyway, the Arizona Cardinals finished 10-7. Even though they had a 10-7 record, they did not make playoffs. Even though they did have a very impressive record, they were 2 wins over 500. Let's go and see how everyone did. Looks like Joe Burrow is now the Arizona Cardinals quarterback, so Kyler Murray is no longer there. And Joey B is there, and they weren't even able to make playoffs with Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow did a pretty good first season, though, 3,765 yards, 30 passing touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions. Trey Benson still holding stuff down, being pretty good. 1,081 rushing yards, 6 rushing touchdowns. Trey McBride, the leading receiver, off of 87 receptions, 963 yards, and 9 receiving touchdowns. Marvin Harrison with 69 receptions and 948 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. Again, it seems like he gets around that 8 receiving touchdowns quite a bit in his career, in a season. He has 85, so he actually went down 1 overall in the beginning of his 8th year. Don't really know why. It's not like he had a bad year, but I guess that's just age starting to come into effect with Madden. Madden does have a thing when you're like 29 and 30, they think you're just trash. Which, I mean, obviously you're going to regress a little bit, but not as bad as Madden says. The Arizona Cardinals made playoffs with an 11-6 record, and they were able to beat the 4-seed Minnesota Vikings, but they were not able to get past the 1st-seed Philadelphia Eagles in the NFL playoffs. So the Eagles eliminate the Cardinals with an 11-6 record. In the Super Bowl is the Jacksonville Jaguars and Carolina Panthers. That is very interesting. Anyway, let's go see how Joe Burrow and Marvin Harrison did. Joe Burrow, not really that great of a year. Definitely could have been better. 3,679 passing yards, 29 passing touchdowns. Could have just had a little bit more passing touchdowns. I mean, it's not bad, but I don't know. You at least want to get to the 30 mark. Especially if your name's Joe Burrow, you should get 30 passing touchdowns. Trey Benson with 1,154 rushing yards. Joe Burrow actually ran the ball quite a bit, having over 400 rushing yards. Marvin Harrison, 73 receptions, 949 yards, with 8 receiving touchdowns. So he has 8 receiving touchdowns for the 3rd year in a row. He's pretty close. He was pretty close the last 2 years to having over 1,000 yards receiving, but he just missed it by probably a game or 2. So let's go and see how Marvin Harrison is now in the beginning of his 9th year. So it is now the beginning of his 9th year. He is an 85 overall. He didn't change any overall spots, but I feel like he's going to start regressing, not progressing, regressing. And the Arizona Cardinals were the 1st seed, so as you can imagine, they had a really good season. They weren't able to get out of the 2nd round, though, even though being the 1st seed, so they lose to the division rivals, the San Francisco 49ers, the 7th seed, and the 49ers made it all the way to the NFC Championship. But the Super Bowl is the Detroit Lions and Houston Texans. But yeah, so that is not good for the Arizona Cardinals to be the first seed. We had a 12-5 record, and we lose to division rivals the first time we face them. Joe Burrow, really good year for him right here. 3,866 yards, 32 passing touchdowns, 8 interceptions, over 70% completion. Trey Benson didn't have 1,000 yards receiving, but it is all right. He has been pretty good for us so far. He had 7 rushing touchdowns. Marvin Harrison, 1,083 receiving yards off of 83 receptions. That is really good to see. And he had 6 receiving touchdowns. He doesn't get like a whole lot of receiving touchdowns, but like I said, he's not like he's putting up bad seasons, but it's not like he's putting up great seasons. It's like right around the level of above mid. He is starting to regress, though, pretty bad. This is early in his 10th season. He is an 82, so he just went down 3 overalls after that season, even though that was actually a pretty good season for him. So he went down 3 overalls in the beginning of his 10th season. He is now 31 years old, so I feel like Marvin Harrison is going to start regressing a lot. But the Arizona Cardinals, they actually made the Super Bowl this year. Believe it or not, they made the Super Bowl on an 11-6 record. They weren't able to win, though. Marvin Harrison did not get a ring. They lost to the New England Patriots. I'm kind of shocked the Cardinals honestly made a Super Bowl appearance this soon. Not to rip on any Cardinals fans, but yeah, I mean, maybe if you had Joe Burrow, I mean, maybe. Who knows? Joe Burrow is a good player, but he wasn't even able to make the Cincinnati Bengals go to the playoffs this year, and he did all he could. They lost to the New England Patriots, though, 17-22. Joe Burrow, 3,882 yards. Honestly, Joe Burrow didn't have a crazy year. Nothing special. 28 passing touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Completion percentage was really good, though. We don't have Trey Benson anymore. Marvin Harrison with over 1,100 yards receiving. I think that is his career high. Yeah, that is his career high. 1,145 yards receiving with 7 receiving touchdowns. So even though he just went down 3 overalls in regression, he still did pretty good. And we also got some auto-generated people up there with 989 yards and 8 receiving touchdowns. And Trey McBride is still a Cardinal and doing pretty well with 651 yards and 5 receiving touchdowns. But yeah, Marvin Harrison was able to make a Super Bowl appearance. Wasn't able to get the ring, though, which is very unfortunate. That would have helped his case to being a Hall of Famer a lot. I know in these career subs, we basically try to see if they have a Hall of Fame career or just a good career in general. I would say definitely a good career for Marvin Harrison so far, but I wouldn't say a Hall of Fame career. And the Cardinals finished 10-7, and they don't make playoffs this time around, even though with a 10-7 record. And I just wanted to show you guys this, that Marvin Harrison is currently not on the Arizona Cardinals. He is a free agent, and no one is wanting to sign him. So let's go ahead and go to the free agents and check out the receivers. He's the best available receiver, so maybe he could reach a team. But you see all the other young people as well, like Keon Coleman, Zay Flowers. So, yeah, I don't really know what's going to happen here with Marvin Harrison. He is still a 79 overall. I'm kind of think he'd be on a team. Anyway, I said that next year he still wasn't on a team, and then Marvin Harrison called it quits. Marvin Harrison retires after 12 years in the NFL. So that is Marvin Harrison's career in a nutshell, but we're going to take a way bigger deep in all the stats and playoff appearances for you guys. So Marvin Harrison actually, he wasn't anything crazy like he was kind of projected to be. You know, he was the 4th overall pick, and he had a lot of hype saying he'd be a generational talent in the receiving game. And he kind of had a disappointing year in real life. But, I mean, it wasn't horrible. Like, that's the thing with him. He wasn't horrible, but it just wasn't, like, quite what people expected. But he is going to have time. But if we check all the career records for the Cardinals, he does not hold any. It is all held by Larry Fitzgerald, and understandably so. Larry Fitz was an absolute stud. So, yeah, I mean, he did the touchdown catches. He wasn't probably going to get maybe receptions, but yeah, he wasn't going to get that either. Let's go check it in season for the most receiving yards in a season for a Cardinal, and he doesn't hold any of that either. So that is Marvin Harrison's career. It was kind of impressive. He did have a Super Bowl appearance, and he had 4 playoff appearances. So, I mean, not bad. Only in a 12-year career. I mean, career was cut a little short. I don't know. He just started regressing out of nowhere. Here are his career stats. He finished his career with 702 receptions, 9,063 yards, and 77 receiving touchdowns. He did not make any Pro Bowls. He didn't win Offensive Player of the Year or anything like that. He just has his stats. I don't think this guy's a Hall of Famer. That's kind of the main question we ask. Are they a Hall of Famer, or at least they are at least going to be considered in the Hall of Fame? Maybe if he got a ring, he would have been, but the stats aren't quite there. He doesn't have any Pro Bowls to back it up, only 4 playoff appearances in a 12-year career. Just seems like he was a franchise good. He wasn't even a franchise leader, just a franchise, like a good player. Like, if I had to compare him to someone like Chris Godwin, kind of. If I no shade to Chris Godwin, but obviously Mike Evans is looked at as the franchise great, and Mike Evans will definitely have a better case going in the Hall of Fame than someone like Chris Godwin. If you guys enjoyed that video, make sure you guys leave a like and subscribe for more Madden 25 content and NFL analysis in general. Make sure to comment down below who we should do next. All right, bye.